Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love with those you love to do them with. It's Saturday. Happy Saturday to you. We got a transfer news, views, and clues update for you. I hope you don't mind doing me some favors like you always do. Smash the granny out of the like button like you always do. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the march to 34K. We're literally a couple of subscribers away from getting there. And hit the notification bell. And drop the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this one. We've got a couple of stories for you. An interesting one that's coming out around Evann Guessand, and an interesting one we don't really want that's coming out about Muniz from Fulham. Tottenham, obviously, according to the reports, and by the way, we take all this stuff with a pinch of salt, according to the reports, are turning their attention towards other versatile forward options, maybe striker options, in a world where potentially Richalison's story, the news where he is linked to and liked by Turkish teams and or potentially South American teams. Vasco da Gama is one such name that's been mentioned. I think Fenerbahce and Galatasaray have also been mentioned in the last 24 hours. I'm not going to bore you with my current conspiracy theory about Turkish football and the links and the connections to major money with regard to certain loan deals and things that are happening. It's quite wild. But look, there's a lot of links going for Galatasaray, or sorry, for Richalison to be leaving the club. And as you may or may not be aware, if you've watched my channel for a while, I've been basically salty about the fact that we spent £60 million on Richalison before we even signed Richalison. He wasn't the guy before the guy for me. He was the guy that never should have been the guy at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, credit where it's due. When he's fully fit, I do think he provides output, and he's got a history of doing that. But his fitness is a major issue. I also believe that a major issue with Richarlison is that his limitation as a player in everything other than one or two areas, like his aerial threat, and the fact that he's a bit of a nonsense and a nuisance is the word I'm looking for, to be around the area. Then apart from that, I think that he doesn't offer too much. He can't really control the possession. He hasn't got a terrible first touch. And ultimately, I think that what happens is that Tottenham kind of conduct their football when he's on the pitch in a way that suits him to try to get the best outcomes from him. And it kind of sort of dishevels our play a little bit and unbalances us. Not something that you can throw the same accusation to Solanke. In fact, I think the entire opposite with Dominic Solanke. I think he's been a victim of his versatility. He's been a victim of his willingness to work hard and play in roles and conduct himself in a way that plays that sacrificial lamb, at least under the Ange Postecoglou system. Under the Thomas Frank system, it remains to be seen who it is that Thomas Frank will prefer, or if indeed he wants to go in a different direction. And it looks like, according to reports today at least, we're getting some names that we've heard about before. Let's start, though, with the noise regarding Muniz, which is the first story that came out last night. And this is from Give Me Sport. And I really hope that what I can be saying by the end of this story is give me a break, because it doesn't really make any sense. This is the second time we've been linked to this guy in as many weeks. Tottenham Hotspur have had, this is from Daniel Feliciano, published 20 hours ago from the time of my recording here. Tottenham have had a £32 million bid rejected for Fulham striker Rodrigo Muniz, with the Cottagers adamant they don't want to sell, according to Brazilian outlet Bolavip. Now, this wasn't the outlet that made the initial story a couple of weeks ago, but the stories are coming from that direction. The same with the first time. The first time this story was announced, there was also a Brazilian outlet that was recording this stuff. The North London club want to bolster their attacking options this summer for manager Thomas Frank as they prepare to head to the Champions League amid question marks over the future of Heung Min and Richalison. Now it has emerged that the Lily Whites have made a move to add another Brazilian striker to their ranks, but have fallen short in their attempts. Muniz, who has been described as insane, has emerged as a wanted man during the summer transfer window amid interest from Leeds United and Spurs. And after Daniel Farke's side had been rejected for the 24-year-old, it has now emerged that Tottenham also tabled a £32 million offer to sign the forward that was rejected by Fulham. However, Fulham are adamant they don't want to sell him, as they want to keep their squad together, and they're planning on offering a new contract at Craven Cottage to extend his time in West London, with the current deal due to expire next year. In terms of stats, just to quickly, appearances for Fulham, 31, 9th, goals, 8th, which was second. He wasn't the top scorer for Fulham last year. Key passes per game, 18th. Shots per game, 4th. Look, it's just not a really appetizing story. The reason why the first story came out, by the way, is that there is a team that's in Brazil that are under, I forget the name of the team off the top of my head. They are under the duress of their own version of kind of FFP and PSR, and essentially that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford a certain purchase they wanted to make had it not been for some other revenue streams being distributed and generated by the club. And that this particular transfer, had Tottenham or whoever else, Leeds, etc., paid the money, £32 million was the initial bid, but £50 million, according to this, is what Fulham are holding out for, then he was going to be able to, that sale was going to be able to create enough money in a sell-on fee that the Brazilian club is due to receive to be able to prevent them from going through those problems that they have with their own financial restrictions and be able to go after the player that they wanted. I don't know if there's any substance to it. I don't know if Give Me Sport are just rehashing that old story, but certainly Bola VIP, the outlet in Brazil, it wasn't the same outlet originally, but whether they are basing it on the same story that happened a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure. Either way, I don't think that Muniz is anywhere near good enough for what we're looking for. He's wanted by a few teams. I'm pretty sure I've seen links with Leeds, with Nottingham Forest, with Wolves, with Crystal Palace in the event that they sold Jean-Philippe Mateta, and even teams like Sunderland as well that are looking to go up. So looking to stay up, rather, with their transfer ambitions, which, by the way, are very impressive so far. So for me, I don't give this any credit at all. But what I will do is say it's out there, so I'm bringing it to your attention, and I really hope it isn't true. If it is true and Tottenham are going for him, he's not a bad player for sure, but is he what we're looking for? Is he going to kick us on? No. If you're giving me the choice of Richalison or Muniz, I'm probably going to stick with Richarlison. And for me to say that, if you know me, that tells you how little I am interested in this particular story. I wanted to move the conversation along now, guys, to Evann Guessand, because there is links out from Football Fancast, but it's representing Pete O'Rourke, who says that Tottenham are actively looking to sign OGC Nice forward Evann Guessand. Now, look, Evann Guessand, for me, guys, is a really, really interesting player. I think he's a player that is going to leave French football this year, as you've spoken about, and we've spoken about it on this channel many times. You will have learnt about it here, if not elsewhere, that French football is in sort of dire straits with regards their financial acumen. And the story essentially says that Guessand is looking for a move, and there's a lot of teams that are out there making a move for him. I'm going to spend a couple of seconds just running through the article, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts on Evann Guessand. Tottenham have tentatively linked with a move for Guessand this window, but O'Rourke tells Football Insider that Thomas Frank's side are actively pursuing versatile Ivory Coast international who predominantly featured on the right-hand side in Kudus' position last term. As well as on both flanks, the 24-year-old can operate as a second striker and even as a centre-forward when required. Tottenham would need a maximum of just £25 million to strike a deal for Guessand, making this an attractive option for Levy. And O'Rourke says he'd be the ideal signing for Frank's system as well. A lot of Premier League clubs are looking at sign. That's absolutely true. I'll speak about that in a second. There's a lot of other teams, though, in Europe looking at him as well. He's a real value trade here. If you're looking for players that can operate in multiple areas, that can provide output, that seems to have the kind of the je ne sais quoi, that can make it work in the Premier League, I think this guy is someone that can do it. Is he going to come in and necessarily be a starter all the time? Is he going to be the kind of name that's going to get everybody going rat-a-ta-ta? Probably not, but don't underestimate how much quality this guy has. He had a very good season for Nice last season, says O'Rourke. He got 12 goals and 7 assists in 33 League One games, so he has a good record. He's got the physical profile that you would think would be a success in English football. He can play anywhere across the front line as well. There's been interest from Brighton, West Ham, Wolves. Now Tottenham have also an active interest in Guessand. Nice are bracing themselves for interest in the upcoming transfer window. For Tottenham, it would be a good signing. The way Guessand plays anywhere across the front line will make him a valuable addition. Nice will be hoping they can keep hold of him after qualifying for the Champions League themselves. They're looking for a big fee, around 20 to 25 million. So I'll tell you what, guys, just to show you right now, the guy's been at Nice since basically he started. He started at Nice under 19s. He went to Nice B and then got promoted to Nice's first team, went out on loan to Lausanne Sport, and then also to Nantes, and then came back and has essentially been at Nice for the majority of for all of his career, if you like. Valued at 25 million euros, but I think he'll go for a little bit more than that. He is certainly a player that Tottenham will be looking at. But for what it's worth, Pete O'Rourke talks about Premier League clubs that have been interested in him. Arsenal scouts have monitored Guessand, particularly in matches against Lyon and Auxerre last season. They value his versatility and his potential as a long-term investment to bolster their attacks. Let me get rid of my screen for a second. On top of that, United have also been linked with him competing with Tottenham. Guessand is basically seen as a cost-effective alternative to pricier targets like Gyökeres, which they're clearly going to fail on. Tottenham are interested in his physical and technical attributes. Leeds United, according to my notes here, were linked earlier in the window, but recent reports suggest they've fallen behind due to the competition from bigger clubs and from Fenerbahce. Wolves viewed Guessand as a potential replacement for Cunha, with his statistical profile exciting fans. Their pursuit has probably cooled again in the face of bigger competition. West Ham and Villa are both looking at him as well. West Ham would only probably go for him once they've sold, if they can sell, to Tottenham or Chelsea or Newcastle. Mohamed Kudus, and obviously Aston Villa may be on the brunt end of a target for both Bailey and Asensio, and also at the same time of that, even Ollie Watkins, who might be a sort of second or third choice for Arsenal if they were to fail in the pursuit of Gyökeres, who, by the way, Arteta, according to other reports today, has placed a 2-week deadline on Sporting's to either accept their bid or sort of shit or get off the pot kind of vibe. What's more interesting is Jose Mourinho personally contacted Guessand from Fenerbahce, urging him to join alongside John Duran. The Turkish club lead the race, apparently, for the player, with Guessand reportedly open to the move. And the 25 million euro valuation aligns with Fenerbahce's budget. Fenerbahce's budget seemingly leaning towards loan deals. As I said before, there's lots of things going on there. Now, Nice, of course, don't forget, are owned by Ineos, who are obviously linked with Manchester United's Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And they might be open to a 35 to 40 million euro deal is where I see it, according to my notes. No final decision has been made. Guessand is open to a move to Turkey or to the Premier League. In fact, I think he would prefer the Premier League, according to these notes that I've got here. And we shall see. In terms of sort of comparable players, I think Leandro Trossard is a decent comparison. The sort of dearly departed Diogo Jota would have been a really good comparison as well. Someone that can do a little bit, play across the front three, not necessarily as a striker, but if needs must, he can do that sort of thing. Alvarez, Omar Mamouche, that sort of vibe. Maybe not yet on a fully developed scale, but someone that I think we could look at. If you're looking for weaknesses in the guy's game, guys, aerial ability, right? Despite the fact that he's 1.88 m, so he's about 6'2", he only wins 39% of his aerial duels, limiting his effectiveness in set pieces, and it's certainly against physical defenders. So he might be a horses for courses type of guy, depending on where you use him. He doesn't touch the ball as much as other people in his position. He's sort of less involved in possession-based play, for what it's worth, at least in his history. So that might be an issue for Tottenham if Thomas Frank wants to kind of emulate some of the sort of the rules that were embedded under the Ange Postecoglou system. He's more of a kind of output guy rather than getting stuck in and doing a lot more of the work rate. In possession-heavy play, he's not necessarily great, but when he does get on the ball, his precision is incredibly important. His finishing consistency is also a concern. He did outperform his XG. He was only XG to get 7.77 goals last year in the Ligue 1, but he got 10 goals from it. His shot volume, 55 shots on target, or 55 shots on goal. There's a lot of room for improvement with regards to his finishing. But like I say, as a player that can do a little bit of everything else, you love to see a guy that still can get those sorts of outputs. His key strength for me is his versatility. As I said already, he absolutely excels as a centre forward, but he's equally as effective as a winger on the right or the left, two-footed player. He's played on the right wing last year. He played 15 games. As a striker, he played 12 games. As a left wing, he played 5 games. And he spread the goals across. Right wing, 8 goals, 5 assists. Striker, 3 goals, 1 assist in 12. So a 33% return on a GA from a striker perspective. 13 GA from the right wing, which is obviously a hell of a return from 15 goals. So it's like 90%, give or take. And as a left wing, he got 3 GA from 5 games. So about 60% ratio. 12 goals and 8 assists in Ligue 1 in total highlight his finishing ability and certainly his playmaking off the right wing. He ranks in the 75th percentile for goals per 90 among centre forwards across the top 5 leagues, which isn't that bad for a right winger for sure. Great, fantastic dribbler, right? 4.61 dribbles per 90 and high percentile rankings for successful dribbles 75th percentile in that regard, and progressive carrying. He's a dynamic player. He's really, really interesting. I really do like this guy, by the way. I think he's got something about him. He's young. He's energetic. He has a lot of room for improvement. He's raw. So if you're looking for the finished article, well, you know, you're not going to get finished articles for 25 million euros, guys, or even 30 million euros. Matisse Tell is the same bracket, right? 30 million, 40 million could be paid for him. He's got a lot of potential, massively high ceiling. We shall see whether or not he turns up to be the guy that we hope, that I think he can be. But if you're only paying 30 to 35 million pound for a player, you're not going to get the finished article. And if you are getting the finished article at 35 million pound, he's probably not the guy you want at Tottenham if you have ambitions to win the Premier League and the Champions League, according to Daniel Levy. So that's the kind of scout report a little bit on him. But it's an interesting story. As I say, Fenerbahce are currently front and centre, but Tottenham are emerging, according to Pete O'Rourke, to be sort of front and centre of the Premier League teams. All of the smaller teams seem to be drifting away. Look, whether we sign Mohamed Kudus or not, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily to see him rotated in. He's not my number one in that kind of like versatile role. I don't think Tottenham are going to be able to sign Mohamed Kudus and someone like Guessand, and or someone like Mikhail Georgi Mikhail. For me, Mikhail is number one. Even though he comes at a lower price, I would actually be happier for Tottenham to go and get him and save the budget and put the rest of that forward money on someone else like an Eberechi Eze or like, you know, a sort of top-level striker that can get us 25 goals. I think Mikhail can do it all. I'm very, very happy if we go and get Mohamed Kudus. I really, really value him, but the pricing point here is a little bit difficult. 70 million quid. I think it's going to end up would be a record transfer. Are you okay with that? Let me know. If you're not okay with it, are you basing that on the version of him that you saw last year? Are you forgetting about the versions of him previously? But for me, Evann Guessand is an interesting player. If he ends up at Tottenham, let me know if you'd be okay with it. I would, but not if he's the replacement for Kudus and that's it. If that's our forward guy, that's not enough for me. But for someone to be brought in that can be introduced and mixed in, I think that somebody in the Premier League, if not Fenerbahce, somebody in the Premier League this summer will get a really, really top draw player in Evann Guessand. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. There's a second video coming shortly behind it, talking a little bit more detail about Koni de Winter and a few of the other transfer news, views, and clues that we've got coming out today. Lots more to come on this channel. You can expect multiple pieces of content per day. Also, if you do like this sort of thing, but you don't necessarily like it on YouTube and you want to watch it on the podcast stuff, it's on Apple Pods, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon, it's on all the major podcast links are in the description. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,